Hello, friends. Today, it's Dennis with you, Almaz at the control panel, and this is the new episode of our show, Alphapreneurs, already the second one. Today, we're going to be firing product managers. But why am I saying this? Actually, it's about specifications, because every project, one way or another, starts with a technical specification. It doesn't matter whether it's done by people or by AI. At the same time, the requirements for specifications in AI are much higher than in human-driven startups. This is a very important point, and it needs to be understood. And here, I guess I'm going to change my mind about wanting all those confluences, Jiras and Salmon, whatever that means. Explanation in the smallest details. For idiots, this has become necessary again, because it doesn't fully understand you. You need to make it clear. It needs a clear, step-by-step instruction, as if it were an imbecile. But there's one difference. How much does it cost? $20 a month compared to a PHP developer at $5,000 a month. So let's go, Almas, turn it on. How do you write a speaker without a product manager?
Let's go. What's the main principle, guys? So here's a universal rule. Do you have product quality? It's about informational completeness. It will never be higher than you are. AI product quality, AI generated, and even human generated. Your product quality depends on how you initially provided the information as input. The more accurately and completely you provide information about the product specs, the better your AI will generate. Because what problems are there with AI development? If you give prompts that are too general, like make me a Slack clone, then the AI might go off track.
Not just might, it's more likely to go off track.
It will go off track because, well, I think those of you who have tried Cursor Label in version 0, you know what I mean? Well, too much. Veer far away from your original vision. So the better you make the spec, and more precisely what will happen is the AI will stay within certain boundaries and stay on the right track, and it will also consume fewer tokens. And it will generate code faster. That's how it works. These are the main principles, so we work through the next topic. What is the flow of generation then? We write an initial spec, some kind of first document. For example, we had a prompt in Lava. We want a simple website. The one about Azimuth and Alphapreneur. It can be anything. This amount of text is roughly your initial spec.
Your idea, your manifesto, right?
Don't stress too much, but try to write it in your own words, as if it's alive. And the more you put into your input, the better the AI will understand where to go, following the same principle. Optionally, you can use ChatGPT for side research, for example, market research or specific industry-related topics. For instance, if we're creating a psychological survey, then probably some psychology principles or test administration guidelines should be looked up with the help of ChatGPT. If you're making an uptime monitor, then principles of data caching during calculation, aggregation, and handling ping information. Well, you get the idea. These kinds of things with ChatGPT. Plus, yes, specific things. Write down those that are related to the industry. We then input this into our AI product manager. By AI product manager, we specifically mean what we're going to show today. This is code in combination, specifically desktop code on TIE 7, combined with several MCPs. And MCP is a trending topic. At the end of last year, the company Anthropic introduced to the market, MCP is a kind of universal API for LLMs. It's not just for Anthropic's cloud, it's for everyone, for GPT, for everything. And it was created so that when you use some AI program like Cursors or V0, it basically works seamlessly with MCP. Let's draw it out. So you have your AI, and and through integration with MCP, it can perform additional logic or interact with external APIs. For example, with databases, Slack, Telegram, a browser, YouTube, to watch content. So if you wrap your AI in Cursor, for example, with MCP, tie it up, then it will fit in more correctly. To do all of that in Slack, Telegram, the browser, and so on. And what tools do we use in our plugin? Today we use the following plugins. We have sequential thinking. This is an additional MCP plugin that allows our neural network, the product manager, to build additional logical chains and ask better questions when formulating the product spec. We can, for example, say, well, I want to make SaaS. But what kind of authentication? Gmail or email? And for email, how many of those? Do we need to validate the email or not? And after that, can users use the products anonymously or not? Or is it required? In short, moving on to the next chess moves. The next step. This is for, I wrote down why. Next, we use the Brave Search API. It's essentially like Google Search. Google Search, but from Brave. If our product manager needs to look something up on the internet, she can use the Search Engine API to go online and search for it herself. Plus, Brave Search also allows for more. If you say, give me references, a clone of some product, it's thanks to this thing, MCP, that it will go online and check out the entire site, right down to the design. Next, Tavili. We use Tavili as an additional tool. Tavili is, where is she? Tavili. It's also a connector between your LLM and the web. Additionally, it searches the internet for the best practices to use. For example, if you're planning to use AI to create some basic cybersecurity feature or some SaaS where clients require proper security, Tavili will search for the best practices on how to code it correctly. Two-factor authentication, MD5 hashing, I don't know, user authentication, the best logic. In general, admin management of users within an organization. That's what it does here. So this is an additional upgrade. Let's move on. Let me double check just in case. So what else do we use? Local, well, the file system, yes, it's used so it can create files. That's all. Yes, these are our main plugins. That's correct. With this, we generate proper specs. After that, the AI product manager generates a file, MDSpecs. It contains the complete product description. And we then provide this product description to Cursor. Additionally, we configure Cursor. I'll show that as well. We provide it to Cursor. We provide it to Cursor. Well, in this form plus an additional config. We configure it so that Cursor takes into account the specs during every programming session. By the way, that's within our product as well. Let's go. Let's create any project. By the way, it's not required for us. Let's choose which project idea we'd like to code today.
Yeah, I think let's Cloneflow or Cloneflow. Come on, by the way, Cloneflow. Let's do Cloneflow.
Let's do it.
It's just interesting for the listeners because diets, all those subscription services, it's all for those who work in marketing, basically. Specifically, those who know how to work with cancer. That's the direction. So we'll take it and not overthink things. Let's open ours. Let's write the manifest first.
All right, let's make a new folder, Flock. It's okay. So Flock, it's flow specs. Meaning the guys were going with balls to Almaz, yes, while Almaz is preparing the document. We're talking about a certain term, prompt engineering, because as we've realized from our own experience, since we've been in this field for quite a while now, a lot depends on the prompts, on the technical specifications. But to write a full-fledged technical specification, well, you'll see the result in a moment, and you'll just realize that this isn't really the job of an ordinary guy. In fact, it's the work of a really smart dude. By the way, an idea just came to me. Maybe we should make an ADHD app right away.
Go look for it. Yeah, don't give it to Flow because it's not really interesting right now. Just the words like how is he going to show it?
Let's say we want a mobile app or a web version. Let's go with mobile. Make a clone of the Flow app. 2, 4. Yeah, of course, here. A tracker. Lived and women's health. It's a mobile application. I need some help. By the way, you don't necessarily have to be super knowledgeable about defining the key values of an app for tracking women's health. But most importantly, it helps track your periods This not only helps to predict potential health issues by monitoring important bodily signals, but it also plays a crucial role in determining the timing of ovulation. By identifying when ovulation occurs, it becomes much... Basically, even this is a mobile application.
Yes, it's a mobile application. Let's do it.
This is a high-stakes act. This is unprepared content, guys. A real fighter. But basically, they're the same. So what's happening in Claude? In Claude, you shouldn't work through chat, but through projects. For example, I've created a separate project, really put some effort into it. PRD creator. In PRD, it actually stands for Product Requirements Document. That's basically the spec, in short, PRD.
Well, specification, yes, in Russian.
It's a specific thing which we have a big prompt set up, a master prompt. You are a super professional product manager who is friendly, supportive, and educational. Your job is to help beginner-level developers understand and plan their software in terms of features and to create a PRD file for them. Communicate normally, try to really understand the concept, and dedicate 30% to options that cover ideas that haven't even occurred to us yet. It's essential to go over the current topics. So if we haven't answered something in our initial file, you need to ask about it. This concerns key features, target audience, and platforms. Here we specifically note that this is not a web app, but a mobile application. What kind of UI, data storage, authentication, whether we want it or not, costs, and so on. This is exactly where it comes into play. So where is it here for me? See you next time. It connects to MCP sequential thinking. If there are complex, multifaceted problems, then you need to break them down step by step. If there are complex, challenging features, it analyzes them, evaluates different technical solutions, and distributes everything across the development phases. That's why sequential thinking is needed. To understand what the development priority is? Next, here we have Brave Search. It uses this to validate some recommendation. In other words, it will search the internet. If we say that we want to, I don't know, host on Hetzner, it will go to Hetzner, calculate the pricing, and figure out how much it could theoretically cost. And Tavili, let's take a look. This is a tool for deep technical research and analysis, if you need. To solve very architecturally and technically complex questions and tasks. What are the integration requirements between systems? For example, if you need to create some microservices, or if you need to make a Telegram bot, to properly understand how to send 100,000 pushes in 10 minutes. That's what it's for this purpose. So that's how it works. By the way, how do you install all of this? So you need CloneFlow. That's it. You'll definitely need a paid subscription. And in Claude, go to the settings. In a different window from the settings. And then development. In the development settings, you click the edit config button. Basically, it will open this cloud desktop folder, which you need to edit. So once again, let's go to the console. And if I'm not mistaken, we need to go to the following folder. Open CD library, application support. Here is application support. Open the cloud folder. And then open it there, for example, in any text editor, this folder. What will we see now? We will see this same file, cloud desktop. This is where the settings are specified. I can just post a text file with these settings in the comments on YouTube under this video. You just paste them in and it gets set up. At first, I installed this thing. This should be the first one. So initially, let me save this or even copy it. Make a copy and create a new file. Alternate JSON. What does this file look like at the very beginning? Here it is, empty at first. So yours will look empty if you haven't done anything yet. Even like this. Then you add this line right here. You restart the code. It's important. Every time you add something here, you need to restart the code, reset it. And then you insert these sequential thinking file system lines. Yeah, damn, this is, well, whatever. These are my keys. I'll change these keys anyway. So for Brave, we register on Brave. For Tavili, we register on Tavili. and we get the keys from there. And these are my own keys. Well, I'll delete them a few days after recording anyway. I'll replace them with new ones, but this is a working topic. There are detailed instructions. I'll share them too. Look, I have a special note. Coding with PRD. Yes, and somewhere here, yes, PRD creator. And it has specs for here, sequential thinking. These ones, how do you install them? These key modules. These modules, if you install them, basically installation is just entering those things in JSON. Well, that's it. Anyway, we've more or less figured out how to install them. Write your questions in the comments if something isn't clear. Maybe I'll make a separate video about it. I've gone through all this with a bunch of YouTube videos. We have all of this installed. And this master prompt doesn't work until you've installed all the MSPs. Now we're starting. Create a clone of the application in the special PRD editor. What we've written. Shall we go?
Yeah, let's do it.
So, thank you for sharing the concept of women health tracking. I'll help you make a proper one. A PRD, well, a spec like a product manager would for a mobile app. Clarifying questions. Besides the key features you mentioned, what other basic but specific things would you like to include in the app? And we're free to say whatever we want here. Niha hia, or say useful content.
Well, let's add something else. Damn. And an assistant that can answer questions on women's health for women.
Look, that's good. Clarifying questions. What types of women's health questions are we talking about? Should the AI be able to? For, let's say, menstrual health, fertility, pregnancy, menopause, general, basically all of this. In short, all of this, yes. All of this you mentioned. Do you want the AI assistant to provide a personalized approach? Yes. Yes, I do this for paying clients. To give personalized advice. Yes, please write that. It is very important for the person to seek professional advice and to consult with highly qualified professionals for proper guidance as soon as possible. The next step is that our AI asks additional questions like, who is in the audience? Is it all women or certain groups of women?
No, not women.
That's why I'm writing. Then are there any special features you would like to prioritize? For example, a calendar interface, a journal or diary interface, or something else?
Well, the calendar, of course, is the main feature. I mean, that's the core functionality, the core feature, and the product should be built around it.
Yes. Monetization. So what do I want? Free to track. All periods. Paid AI assistant. For, let's say, 129.99 USD per year, and scheduled paid consulting calls with professionals. We want to bring in professionals, professional gynecologists, and other women's health specialists for calls. Telemedicine pricing. Women. Professional telemedical. Let's take a closer look at this, and if you have any more questions or concerns. So, yes, women's health. She is on the website, like in a review. Basically, we want it to be either anonymized or so I want to market it. Like Apple, Ivan Tuman get this like, Apple, focus on Prime, Axis and focus on anonymized data collection. So the question actually splits into two. Do we want our own calling feature in the app, or should we redirect it to the website? And second, network of health professionals. Well, we believe that we have our own network of professionals. Well, I think we need to show the complexity of the specification in the video, so let it make its own calling feature, of course. Well, obviously, this isn't needed in the actual product, but I want to make my own video for the insight feature. Inside the app, over WebRTC, using livekit.io. Well, something like that. Yes. Still regarding the technical implementation. So what native things do we want to do natively and find natively? Of course, natively and find in Li Insi Suite, Kokol Botan, yes. It's a professional, but on what? And in our network, so to speak, well, and this stability we can have in both, or in the soup, bike, yeah. Use Go as the backend. So in order to track monthly, we track symptoms, mood, temperature. I get it. There are apparently some other sensations happening here as well. By the way, guys, we also need to understand that we've chosen a topic we know nothing about, more or less. Yeah. So that's interesting too, to see what kind of spec people who are actually in the field will come up with. We specifically chose something difficult to show that even if you don't understand the topic, at least it will ask some leading questions. And by the way, the leading questions are actually pretty good. I've already told you in private conversations that people usually don't ask these kinds of questions. A product manager with a salary of 5 to 10,000 is some kind of thing because it makes sense. We're making flow, but obviously you also need to track symptoms, mood, and temperature in order to provide something. Some kind of personalized recommendations or something like that. I am regular. Yeah, so yes, predict every possible outcome, scenario, option, result, or possibility. Health issue based on tracking data where possible. Now, I don't want to implement additional Apple Health or Google Fit integrations yet in this first version. There we go. It started. Now it has started generating. So it went through all the key points from what you remember, success, and so on. We need to ask later to translate it into Russian, send the video in Russian. Here, maybe for those who find it difficult, we need to modify this into Russian. We'll do the translation. Yeah, so you see, guys, right now it's just the description happening, how the lines are being generated. I really like Anostroza. The recommended structure, the database, this also helps. AI interaction. Well, let's wait a bit. I suggest that one English file be turned into two Russian ones. The first for the front end, the second for the back end. Yes? That's it. In the next videos, we'll explain why that is. For now, let's keep it a mystery. But the spec needs to be split into two parts. Well, to give you a hint, it's because the front-end generation tools are separate. Yes, and there's no full stack or AI development. There are some London-based solutions, but if you want something like Flow, yeah, but seriously, guys, just look at what it's writing and how much time it would have taken for research and preparation, say, for a product manager. That's it. Looks great. Now, let's switch to Russian. Now turn this PRD into two separate .md file. One front-end MD Pro, front-end part, and the interface. The second file, backend.md, about the backend. Both files, please, right away in Russian. And here it separates them. And just to jump ahead, here's the first file here. Now the second file will appear here as well. I can click on them separately right here. Download. Basically, here, if I want to roll back, if I didn't make it in time, I just click on this file and everything will be fine for me. What can I say? Now this is that very same more complete product, a spec based on the principle of good rich spec information. Well, first of all, this is also the standard for a person. Second, this is the most optimal file that you give to the cursor or another ID. While the spec is being coded, let's already start thinking about the cursor. Let's say we're creating a new project. Float 2. Yes, CD development MK1, Float 2, CD Float 2. Here's the cursor. The general principle is this. We create a folder called docs. Here, I'm in another one, I think, but it doesn't matter. I'll show it here too. It seems there's access here as well in another project on Rails. I also have this folder scheme dogs, and inside it, our product. These specs were generated in exactly the same way, and based on them, I have... Based on them, we developed the entire basic backend product. I'm very pleased with how it turned out. All the models are spot on. On Rails, it generated everything for me according to the specs. I showed it here, and this is very important. There are different ways to do it, but there's the simplest default way. That's to create a .cursor file in the root folder of the product. And that's where the main instructions go. By the way, I copied them from here. This is when you generate. The code, it always refers to the documentation in the docs folder, which we created separately. And secondly, by using the guidelines, specifically in this file for the front end and back end. Here let's go in. We have, let's see, the specs. Both specs were just finished. I'll go into our flow repository. Here it is, 1. And in it, we do the following. First, we open the console. I want to create a touch cursor file. There, we've created the cursor file. When you generate code, I'll zoom in. Yes, the docs folder. To be continued, I use the guideline in backend. For backend development, I use the guidelines in front end. For front-end development. And now we create a folder, docs, and the docs folders. Yes, I just dropped it in like this. By the way, reveal in Finder. And here it appeared for me. We download our specs. Here is our front-end spec, our back-end spec. Let's check. Here are both our specs, which we just made together. They're both there in full. And look, this is what Dennis and I are trying to convey. This looks much more explicit than what most of us do. The initial prompts for generating design on V0, design on Lovable, anything at all, and the backend. For example, just to get ahead a bit, if I were making some kind of website, I would definitely specify in the spec that I'm using the Station library to generate the visual components of the application interface. Here we have a mobile app. By the way, we actually made things harder for ourselves. And it's not about flow. The thing is, I haven't done mobile development in many years. But most importantly, now we've written these specs. Well, I'm not sure about the mobile app, but now we're in this file, and we have the context of our chat here on the cursor. And then build app based on documentation.
Yeah, look, guys, I'm running it right now. Just watch very carefully what it actually does, okay? Just keep your eyes on it, all right?
Here, it found the files and found the documentation folder, and now it's reading the backend documentation. Reading the front-end documentation as well, yes. And now, based on that, it will generate, well, in this case, specifically, the mobile application. I'm not sure, but
something has started. It's going to generate everything. Watch, guys. The goal of this video was to show how to work with specifications. We're not going to continue with further development right now. We just showed this in the video. And on my timer, it lasted 35 minutes. We were talking, Almaz was drawing in Miro, basically explaining what was happening, and the start coding button was pressed. So within half an hour, we had a complete spec. We'll talk about integration separately in other videos, because these kinds of services like Lava were involved, but they don't suit us. They can handle some simple tasks, but overall, that's not our path. So getting to an industrial grade product or even a release ready product is going to be extremely difficult. But here things are more or less okay. And here it's just important to note that all your prompts will go through a spec filter. So roughly speaking, if a person were doing this, they would have the spec open on a neighboring monitor, constantly referring to it before writing each line of code. That's the point. And when you write a prompt, like in ChatGPT, for example, make me an app. Of course, you'll get some nonsense, because if you tell a person, make me a clown flow, they'll just do it however they see fit based on what they know. You get what I mean, right? This is super important, because this whole prompt engineering thing, honestly, I hate that term. It's not really engineering. It's more like prompt management. Something along those lines, not project management, but prompt management. This thing actually lets you do more serious work, really speeds up hypothesis testing, MVP validation, and so on. Well, I think we've covered that in this video. So Almaz, let's wrap it up.